I'm going to teach you some things about distance, speed, and acceleration, but only the basics at this level. You can move on to more advanced things later on. Okay, distance. This should be pretty clear to you. If you've got 2 points, maybe this is your house, and maybe this is your next door neighbor's house. What is the distance between them? Those houses are pretty small. This is like maybe you're living on a farm or something. Anyway, the distance is the length between them. Not much more to be said here, except don't forget we can measure it in millimeters, meters, centimeters, kilometers, light years if you're talking about space. All right. What is speed? This is a little bit harder than distance. Now I just want to talk about speed. Speed is obviously how fast are you going. You all know that if something is moving fast, it has a lot of speed, has a big speed. So let's say I walk 30 meters and it takes me 5 seconds. My average speed will be the distance I've traveled divided by the time it took me. So that's 30 divided by 5, which is 6. And the distance is in meters because I've already said that. The time is in seconds, and the unit, that's the units for distance and time, and the units for speed is meters divided by seconds. It's the way you say it is meters per second. What this means is, on average, I have traveled 6 meters in every second. That's actually very fast. I guess I'm a fast walker. Okay, so I've just realized how ridiculous this question is. Anyway, if I only take 3 seconds to walk 30 meters, I'm a very fast walker. I must be an Olympic medal winner. If I only take 3 seconds to walk 30 meters instead of 5, will my speed be faster or slower? So I've kind of just answered my own question there. If I only take 3 seconds, I must be going faster. You know that if somebody runs 100 meters, you know the world record 100 meter time is 9 seconds and something. I wish I knew the number exactly, but I don't right now. If I take 17 seconds to run 100 meters, which I personally do, I'm not a fast runner, then I'm going a lot slower than the world medal, the person who won the medal. So if I take less time, that means I'm going faster. So the world champion takes less time and goes faster. But I want you to understand this with the maths as well. So let's say I take 5 seconds to walk my 30 meters. As we've just seen in the last example, we did this 30 divided by 5, that's 6 meters per second. If I take 3 seconds, my speed is 30 divided by 3, which is 10 meters per second. So hopefully you can see, if I divide by a smaller number, how do I describe the result? The result is, it has to be bigger. If I divide by a smaller number, the result is bigger. So hopefully this helps you understand, if I take less time to do something, the number on the bottom of the fraction is going to be smaller. So that means my speed has to be faster. All right. So if you look at the speedometer on a car, this is called instantaneous speed. That's a big word. It means speed at that instant, or at the time that you're looking at it. That's the speed, but it could change 1 second later. It could, if you look at it again 1 second later, it could be different. And that's because cars speed up and they slow down. And so the speed at a particular time is called the instantaneous speed. But the average speed, you can find the average speed over a long period of time. It's the speed you get on average. So if a car drives the distance of 100 meters, it changes speed all the time. Well, if it's not moving at the start and it has to accelerate, then it will be changing speed for a lot of the time. Its average speed is, again, this is what we just did, the distance it travels. So average speed, call it S, equals the distance it travels divided by the time it takes. So this is average speed. And this is different to the instantaneous speed. So if the car takes 5 seconds to drive the 100 meters, the average speed equals the distance divided by the time. The distance was 100 meters. The time was 5 seconds. So that is 100 divided by 5 is 20 meters per second. Let's say the average speed of a sailboat, here's my sailboat, is 2 meters per second. What that means is it's going forward 2 meters every second on average. It might go a bit faster sometimes and it might go a bit slower sometimes, but the average speed is 2 meters per second. And it travels from one buoy to another in 44 seconds. So the time it takes to go from here to here is 44 seconds. How far apart are the buoys? So we've got our average speed. And one way you can do this, by the way, when you're solving problems like this, is you can work out what information you have and what information you need. And the information we have is that the average speed is 2, so we'll write that down, S equals 2. We have this 44 seconds, what's that? That's the time. So the T equals 44, and what we need is how far apart are the buoys? What we need is the distance. So distance equals question mark, we don't know that. So S equals, what was it? Average speed equals, hopefully you can remember, distance divided by time, distance over time. And now we can put some numbers in. And the reason why there's a challenge is that after you put the numbers in, you might have to do some algebra. Just a little bit. So S is 2 from here. So instead of S, we'll write 2. D is question mark. So we'll just write D. And we'll find out what D is later. And T is 54. We know that. Okay. Now this is the tricky part. You have to do a bit of algebra. D divided by 44 equals 2. So we want to just find out what D is without the 44. We don't want this messing up our picture. So we want to find out what D is. But to do that, you have to get rid of this 44. Now if it's divided, you can times this by 44, and that will cancel out the dividing, because dividing and times are opposites. But in algebra, if you've got two sides of an equation, if I've just times one side by 44, I need to times the other side by 44, so it's still equal to each other. So, and if this isn't how you learn algebra, that's okay. Don't worry too much about that. Maybe you just learn the 44 goes to the other side or something. That's fine. Okay, so in the end, we're going to have D, and I've just switched around the sides, equals 44 times 2. And D equals 88. And we're using meters per second and seconds. Now, sometimes it's not meters per second and seconds, but don't worry about that for now. If we're using all of those, we know that we're talking about meters. So 88 meters. And there we go. Now, you can work this out without doing algebra if you want to, if you think about it, this particular question, because if you know that 2 equals D divided by 44, you can just think, what number can I divide by 44 to get 2? Actually, that's pretty hard. Don't worry about that. All right. So can we recap? What have we learnt? We have hopefully learnt I hope you have learned that you'll already know what distance is. This thing, average speed equals distance over time. And you will have hopefully learnt that there's a difference between average speed and instantaneous speed. I can change speed all the time, and my instantaneous speed is the time, the speed at a particular time. But the average speed is overall, what's the average of all of the speeds that you are going? And that's found by distance divided by time. And usually we say distance in meters, time in seconds, and speed in meters per second. All right, I will see you next time for acceleration.